Thank you, Ian. If you want to get started, once it's 5:35. Thank you.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll give it a few minutes. Well, everyone, if you're just joining us, we're going to give it a couple more minutes for some additional people to join in.
Hold the audio now unmuted.
And as a reminder to everyone, please make sure that you're muted during the presentation, and we will take questions following the presentation.
Hold the audio now unmuted.
All right, hello everyone. It's 5 minutes after 5:30, so we're going to get started. My name is Ian Sansom. I am project manager at the Department of Transportation and Mobility at the City of Tucson. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to go into a basic overview of a comprehensive operations analysis, or COA. And this is for the Sunvan system. The Sunvan Comprehensive Operations Analysis has a few objectives. Those are to evaluate existing Sunvan service policies and procedures, to identify opportunities for improvement to the Sunvan system and to create a more equitable, effective, and efficient Sunvan system, and to propose recommendations for future Sunvan service changes or expansions to better serve the Sunvan community. Some of you may have participated in the recent SunTran COA. So this is a bit similar of a process where we are evaluating how the system operates and will make recommendations to mayor and council.
El análisis integral de operaciones de Sunvan busca evaluar el servicio, las políticas y los procedimientos del servicio para tránsito con la finalidad de proveer un servicio más equitativo y efectivo. Este servicio es complementario al servicio de SunTran, del cual ya hubo un análisis integral de operaciones recientemente.
The project team for the comprehensive analysis is composed of the City of Tucson Department of Transportation, Sunvan and its operator, RITP Dev, and TMD, which is our consulting firm leading the project. The overall timeline for this project, we just got started last month and have released a survey, and we are wrapping up just our first round of public outreach. We're going to be developing draft recommendations based on what we hear from these meetings and what we hear from the survey over the kind of early part of the summer. And we'll develop draft recommendations and go back out to the public for additional public comment. And we will wrap up our overall recommendations in late summer.
El equipo de trabajo está compuesto por 3 miembros, la ciudad de Tucson, RATP Dev, que son los operadores de Sunvan, y nuestros consultores TMD. En cuanto a la línea del tiempo, nos encontramos ahorita en el proceso de participación pública, en la cual tenemos una encuesta, así como juntas en persona y en línea. En el verano se escribirán las recomendaciones y propuestas para el futuro. Y en agosto se presentará el reporte final a la alcaldesa y los concejales de Tucson.
So some of you may be very familiar with Sunvan, but others may be less familiar. Sunvan is our shared ride public transportation service for people with a disability that prevents them from using either our traditional SunTran buses or our Sunlink streetcar. In order to qualify for using Sunvan, you must be deemed eligible by our eligibility office, which is located at 149 North Stone. Information on calling in for eligibility can be found in the link in the chat at suntran.com. Service provided Sunvan is operated in the same service area as our bus system and expanded out 3/4 of a mile, as well as around Sunlink. So it covers a wide portion of the city of Tucson. There's also premium service, which is offered a bit beyond that service area, which is available when we have drivers.
Sunvan es un servicio de transporte público para personas con una discapacidad que no les permite usar SunTran o Sunlink. Para ser usuarios del servicio es necesario llenar una solicitud y ser aceptados como personas elegibles. El servicio se encuentra a 3/4 de milla del servicio de SunTran y Sunlink, y también hay destinos premium que se encuentran más allá de la zona requerida de distancia que hay que proveer.
Some other accessibility investments the city of Tucson and SunTran are working on include our completely accessible streetcar fleet, which is wheelchair accessible and also has stop announcements, as well as raised platforms for easy on and off access on the streetcar. We also are working on additional ADA bus stop improvements. Our bus stops are designed to be ADA accessible. We're also working on improving sidewalk access around our transit routes. We also offer vehicle operator accessibility training and rider accessibility training.
La ciudad provee Otras opciones de accesibilidad para nuestros usuarios con discapacidad. Todos los autobuses o camiones, así como el tranvía, son accesibles para personas en silla de ruedas y se hacen anuncios en voz alta para las personas con problemas de audición. El tranvía es completamente accesible en cuanto al servicio que está disponible y también las paradas son accesibles. Los operadores tienen entrenamiento y también hay entrenamiento para los usuarios.
Just a few recent Sunvan trends. You can see on these graphs, the cost per boarding has increased 44%, I'm sorry, between 2015 and 2022. So the cost per boarding or per ride has gone up over the last few years. And we think that's kind of in line with inflation and the general rise in costs of labor and fuel. Also, the trips, while they did decrease during the pandemic, have been rising back up and are about where they were pre-pandemic, around 2019 levels currently.
En cuanto a las tendencias de Sunvan, podemos ver que el costo por viaje ha incrementado un 44% entre el 2015 y el 2022. El número de viajes bajó durante la pandemia, pero se ha ido elevando y ahorita nos encontramos en niveles anteriores a la pandemia.
So one of the potential recommendations we may make out of this comprehensive operations analysis is to look at emerging mobility options. And we know that the need for specialized transportation services may exceed what we have as our traditional Sunvan service. So this may include identifying mobility options for seniors, additional options for people with disabilities, and other transit-dependent populations that are not currently served by either Sunvan or Suntran. We are also going to be looking at opportunities for new service options, potentially expanded Sun On Demand, and potential collaborations with rideshare companies such as Uber or Lyft.
Actualmente nos hemos dado cuenta que se necesitan mayores y diversas opciones de movilidad para todos nuestros usuarios, en particular para el servicio de Sunvan, para las personas con discapacidad y para las personas dependientes de transporte público que actualmente no son servidas por Sunvan ni Suntran. Algunas opciones que estamos considerando son la expansión del microtransporte público como Sun On Demand y la colaboración con empresas como Uber y Lyft.
Just some information about our community meetings and our survey. We do want to hear from you about what Sunvan is doing well, where we can improve, any mobility needs that are not being met, what transportation providers that you would use and how often, and then how much you would be willing to pay for any new mobility services. Those survey results are going to be summarized and used to develop our draft recommendations, as I mentioned this summer, for Sunvan and other potential mobility improvements.
Queremos saber sus opiniones, recomendaciones y sugerencias. ¿Qué necesidades de movilidad tienen que no estamos sirviendo actualmente? ¿Qué servicios de transporte utiliza? ¿Cuánto está dispuesto a pagar por un servicio nuevo de movilidad? Y los resultados de las encuestas y de los comentarios serán resumidos y presentados junto con otras recomendaciones en el verano de este año.
Information for staying involved include our website, at suntran.com/sunvanCOA. You can find on the website access to our survey, and we will also be posting our draft recommendations, and we'll be posting information about upcoming outreach events to the website as well.
Para mantenerse informado, lo invitamos a visitar nuestra página web, suntran.com, en Sunvan COA, tomar la encuesta, que toma aproximadamente 10 minutos, y revisar las recomendaciones que se pondrán a su disposición en junio del 2024.
I would like to add one additional comment, and that is that in addition to the in-person outreach events that we're doing, we are going to try and reach as many people as possible through events in the community. So if you have any thoughts or ideas about how we can reach more Sunvan riders and how we can gather more input, please let us know either in the chat or let us know in the Q&A. Thank you so much. And with that, we'll take any questions.
Oh, the audio now unmuted.
Looks like we have a question.
From Daniel Cyber to everyone, phone, I suggest that Sunvan go as far east as Freeman Road.
Thank you, Daniel, for your comment. I see you suggested that Sunvan go as far east as Freeman Road. I am not familiar with Freeman Road, but we will look that up and put that and document that comment. So thank you. I think a couple of people have their hands up. I believe Amanda was first that I'm seeing.
Hi. So my question is, you mentioned exploring the option of using things like Lyft or Uber. And in my experience, at least in Tucson, they don't offer accessible vehicles. So is a thought with expanding or finding alternative options with things like Uber or Lyft is for people who are ambulatory and not necessarily people who use power wheelchairs or other mobility devices?
Hi, thank you for that question. Yes, that is a potential option that we'll be looking at. So we are going to be looking at potential collaborations. That may include being able to expand our service area through a collaboration. But yes, we absolutely do want to make sure as well, if any services are provided for those who are not ambulatory, that we have accessible vehicles available. And we are looking for case studies and best practices from around the country related to those collaborations.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yes, I see another hand up.
Thanks.
If there's a question, I can suggest you put it in the chat, or feel free to just let us know.
HMAC Perso, your hand is up. Would you like me to unmute you?
Oh, let's say button.
Let's say.
We can hear you. I guess there's no question or comment there.
Mute everybody.
If you have a question, please unmute yourself. Feel free to ask your question.
Let's say button.
Okay, it's Barbara here. Could you possibly unmute everybody? Every time I hit the mute button, it says host mute you. Could you possibly unmute everybody so they can get in?
Monica, you're muted.
They didn't hear me.
Unmute every single person, you mean?
Oh, the
I think if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand, and then we'll
Um,
make sure that you are unmuted.
Okay, it's Barbara. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Could you please possibly unmute everybody? You've got the host that's muting everybody. Could you please unmute on your end so that we can get in to make comments? I'm Barbara McPherson. I'm a Sunvan rider. I really like the drivers. I think we got the best drivers in the world. I really like Sunvan drivers. My biggest concern, I have two concerns. One is they have a tendency to be late, in the late window. I have to ride Sunvan from 3:30 to 4 o'clock, and they're always late. My other concern is it's very hard to get into the reservation now, because the reservationists are also doing dispatch as well. And sometimes you have to wait, up to 6 minutes, sometimes even 10 minutes to get in to schedule a ride.
Yes, thank you for that comment, Barbara. Yeah, may defer your comments to Sean at Sunvan. I know it's mainly comments, but he may have any thoughts on the reservation system
I
currently.
mean, Sean, I can even answer that for you if you'd like me to.
Sure.
We are currently in the process. I'm trying to work with the city right now to where when you guys call in, you have different options. To where if you need dispatch, it'll route to dispatch. If you need reservations, it'll route to reservations to kind of help alleviate a lot of those calls going into my reservations department because they are overloaded on a lot of calls. So we are currently in the process of that. I don't know how long it's going to take. But I just ask that you continue to be as patient as possible with us while we're working on that transition.
Yeah. Hi, this is Sean Mangan. I'm the Assistant General Manager at Sunvan. So Barbara, I heard your comment about the vans running late, especially in the afternoon. And you're right. You're absolutely right. We do run late, especially at peak times during the day, and during the weekdays, especially morning times and afternoon times. We have a high demand. So it's true that we have been running late, especially in light of the current demand, which has been pretty high in the last few months. And so we see increasing demand, and we're still trying to catch up with operator manpower. So that's one of our major endeavors is to hire drivers and to get them on the road, because that really helps alleviate some of that congestion, if I can put it that way, at the peak times. We'd like to open up more routes, but to open more routes to put rides on, we need to have more drivers. So we're still working at that. And we understand, Barbara, you're speaking for a lot of people. We do run late at times. Overall, our on-time performance is in the upper 80 percentile. We ran a little over 90% in January, and we're in the upper 80s in terms of percentage on-time performance overall. Anyway, thank you for that comment, Barbara. We'll continue
But I also want to say, I think you've got the best drivers in the world. They're very courteous. They really go out of their way to help people.
Yes, I would agree with you. I think on the whole, we have a pretty wonderful bunch of drivers and a bunch of great people here in the office as well, and reservations and dispatch. We're all pulling together to try to put the best product we can on the road with some challenging circumstances. So I appreciate that comment.
Right, but it doesn't help you if you're on that peak time from 3:30 to 4 and you're late. I was wondering, how are you doing about recruiting drivers?
We're doing pretty well, actually. We post on Indeed. We have people walk in because they see we have a banner out on the fence outside on Ajo Way. So we do see some pretty good traffic in our facility, filling out applications, people applying through Indeed. And then typically we'll start a class every 2 weeks. And lately we've had anywhere from 8 to 10 people start the class. Having said that, the challenge is to get them trained up and on the road. And so we are working at that diligently to get more operators on the road.
All right, and then Sean, I will call you tomorrow on that survey. It still is
Okay.
not accessible.
Oh, okay.
In fact, it's missing the first question. The first question isn't even there because we took it this morning at TSB. It's not going from heading to heading. In other words, I can't go from question 1 to question 2 to question 3.
Okay.
So I will call you with all my suggestions on that. However, it is accessible on the iPhone. So that part's good, but it is not accessible when you use Windows and JAWS.
Okay. So on the iPhone, is question number 1 present?
Yes, it is actually.
Okay. Well, thank you for that feedback, Barbara. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow morning and getting the rest of your feedback, and we'll pass that along to our team.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And did you unmute everybody so they can get in? Did they unmute everybody? I guess they did.
Yeah, I don't think so, Barbara. I think people, I think as Ian mentioned, if someone wants to jump on board, it'd probably be best to raise your hand in the chat and so on, and we can call on you.
Yes, thank you. And just regarding your last point, Barbara, about the survey, we have heard other issues about accessibility with the survey, and we are actively working on the accessibility issues. So we apologize. We hope to get more detailed information from you when you talk to Sean, but we are also working on that as well. Okay, any additional questions or comments?
People can't get unmuted. So you've got to unmute them. I think we have like 17 people on this line and they can't get through.
Yeah, Monica, do you want to try unmuting and see if we can
Please
get
unmute.
Sure. Should I unmute everyone, Ian?
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead and
unmute everyone so they can
and
come
see if-
in and make comments. They're all waiting to make comments.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll just have to make sure that you raise your hand so that we
Or
can.
they can say their name first. They can say their name first. The problem with raising hands is that you have to do F6 and then you have to go over and find the button that says unmute.
Okay.
So what we generally do is we ask people to say their name and then make their comment.
Okay, let's do that. Monica, go ahead and unmute.
I can't unmute them. I asked everyone to unmute. I get that option, ask all to unmute, but people are not unmuting, so I guess they don't have anything to say at the moment.
Oh, I can't imagine that.
I've unmuted. This is Gina Klein. May I speak?
Of course,
Yes.
please do.
Okay. My question is, I'm on the bus and I have to wait like maybe a half hour to an hour before I can be taken to my destination or home. And I've already passed my home 2 or 3 times, and they say they can't stop and let me off because they have to let this other party off first. But I'm still riding around town, and I'm, not, but maybe a block or so away from my home.
Yeah, thank you for that comment.
I hope I said that right.
Thank you. Yeah, Sean or Stephanie, do you want to address kind of how the drop off and pickup system is coordinated?
Sure. So basically, thank you for that question, Ms. Klein. We do have scheduling software. As you know, reservation is take the calls and they they put those rides on routes throughout the week leading up to maybe a day of travel for you or for other folks. And so what's been happening lately is we have so many requests for service, and we have a policy of no trip denials. So if somebody calls us, we're going to accommodate that trip the best we possibly can, especially if it's what we call an ADA trip. We have to do that. And so what's been happening at times is that we get inundated with requests. And as I mentioned before, because we don't have enough manpower, we're still working on catching up with the demand. There are not enough routes to put those rides on. So what happens is routes get overbooked in a sense with trips. So we're trying to fit these trips on routes, and then what happens is the schedule or the route itself becomes rather burdensome, as you mentioned, because the driver is crisscrossing at times back and forth to accommodate all the trip requests. And if they take the time to drop somebody off, and they need to be picking somebody else up, that puts the route even more behind. So the computer and dispatch do the best job they can with the situation we have, especially as I mentioned before, at peak times. Those are the challenging times in the morning and the afternoon hours. So I apologize that is happening at times, to your rides, because it is a reality we deal with at times.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Amanda Parkman, I saw you raise your hand. Are you still interested in speaking?
Oh, no, I said my comment, sorry.
Oh, great, thank you.
Great, thank you. Any additional questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My name is Manny Solis, and I use the application, the Sunvan application, and it's a great app, by the way. But sometimes when I schedule rides on it, it's kind of iffy. They say they're scheduled, and then when I go find out, then the person at the desk says, well, no, it didn't really go through. It did show it as being completed, but not really. And then they do something there, and then it's done. So it was just a comment on that. Maybe making the app more accessible will help you on the
So that's a good
manpower
comment.
side.
Right. Yeah, so there with the app, when riders are booking through the app, you may find a situation where you're wanting a specific time and you make the request, but the trip is not actually booked because reservationists, by contrast, at the call center, can get creative, and they can override the system and put a ride in a place where through the app it looks like there's really no solution. And I'm not sure if that's exactly what's happening, but that's a scenario that does happen fairly often, where a rider attempts to book a trip for
I think that
really
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not getting that solution. So basically, I think they're directed through the app to call Sunvan to complete that request. And when they do that, the agent can assist them with getting that ride booked and overriding the system so that ride does find itself on route, and the booking happens.
Okay, great. Thank you. I had one more comment. Sorry to monopolize this. The survey, I did check it out, and I took 2 surveys today, one with an iPhone and the other with a Windows 10 machine with JAWS and Edge. And I found very quirky behavior on the Windows side. So we could talk about that. Barbara's got my information if you want to talk about it. And can help you make that a little more accessible if you want. That's kind of the thing that I do on the side here. So be happy to help you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and we're noting that there's issues with Windows applications too, so we appreciate that.
Yes, you know, not to be long-winded, but JAWS is not the most stable application, and even the browsers and things. So it's a lot to hit up against to make it work for all situations. I totally get that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Okay, well, if there's no further questions, I think we're gonna wrap this up. We appreciate you all for joining us tonight, and we hope that you will stay involved in the Sunvan Comprehensive Operations Analysis. We will post all additional updates and information on the Suntran website. That's suntran.com/sunvancoa. So thank you all again, and have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Momentum argument to everyone.
Hey, thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you.
For extended service.
Thank you.
Windows F4.
Thank you.
Alt F4. Leave meeting button.